It's Thursday, April 20th. I'm Priyanka Arabindi.
And I'm Juanita Tolliver, and this is What a Day, where geriatric millennials who were wronged by Netflix's Love is Blind snafu can relax because the new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers has officially debuted on our messiest streaming platform.
If I were Rita Repulsa, I'd be shaking in my boots right now. On today's show, 3 people have been arrested and charged in connection to the shooting at a 16th birthday party in Alabama last weekend. Plus, you might need to send Facebook a Venmo request.
Yikes. But first, the Supreme Court extended their temporary stay in the abortion pill case yesterday, and thus they have extended the continued use of mifepristone for at least 2 more days, giving themselves until Friday at midnight to either uphold or overturn that disgusting ruling out of Texas. That means the abortion medication can still be used for abortions up to 10 weeks, and it can still be accessed by mail without a visit to a doctor's office. And for once, this is a welcome, though brief, respite from the highest court in the land for pregnant people who may be in need of this critical medication. And I am thrilled, Priyanka, that the extremist anti-abortion girlies are fuming.
Listen, I'm only happy if those girls are fuming. That's how I want them to stay. So I don't know. I think the court should keep it up. Like, we should just keep this around.
We can wish, but of course this extension doesn't mean that we can expect a positive outcome here. What it does mean, though, is that the justices are taking additional time to decide whether or not they are going to effectively implement a national abortion ban by suspending the FDA's approval of mifepristone, which is used to perform about half of abortions in the United States. And when I say that, I'm thinking about the lower income communities, the rural communities, the Black and brown people, the people living with disabilities, and the migrants who need access to this form of basic health care.
Totally.
Not to mention, if the Supreme Court institutes a nationwide abortion ban, that would fly in the face of all of their justifications of states deciding and states' rights that they referenced when they overturned Roe v. Wade last year. And y'all may remember us discussing this in recent weeks, but keep in mind that this entire Supreme Court moment stems from a Texas judge that suspended the Food and Drug Administration's approval of mifepristone, in which the federal judge refused to use the word fetus, declared it to be unscientific, and opted to use anti-abortion phrases instead.
Wild.
Now, when it comes to the Supreme Court, I'll be honest, I'm not confident in how they'll decide this case, considering that the conservative justices have already overturned Roe, and they've made it abundantly clear that they will jump at the opportunity to take away even more of our basic rights. But the Biden administration is right to take on this fight for women and pregnant people at the Supreme Court and on the ground. On top of their legal challenge, Vice President Harris recently rallied with abortion advocates in California, and she convened a task force on reproductive rights at the White House. So the energy is there. They're bringing it.
Totally. They're bringing it. Everyone on the ground is bringing it. It seems like we know where the vast majority of people in this country stand on this, and we have for some time. But in addition to the impending Supreme Court decision, there have been reports that a manufacturer of the generic version of mifepristone has also filed a lawsuit. So can you tell us more about what that's about?
Look, it's all thanks to the chaos from the anti-abortion groups that are trying to leverage the courts to get mifepristone taken off the market. Gen BioPro, the maker of the generic version of mifepristone, has sued the FDA to try to protect nationwide access to the medication and to reaffirm that the FDA alone has the right to revoke access to a medication if it is deemed to be a hazard to the public. Essentially, Gen BioPro is asking the judge to prohibit the FDA from taking any action that would disrupt access to the pills, including suspending its approval along with mifepristone's approval. And they're right to be worried because the FDA interpreted last week's ruling from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals to include the generic medication. It's also important to note that according to Gen BioPro, they're the ones who produce 2/3 of all of the mifepristone sold in the nation. So any change to its FDA approvals will have massive implications.
Totally. So how is the FDA responding to this new lawsuit?
Radio silence. When I tell you they aren't saying a thing, their official statement was, quote, "The FDA doesn't comment on pending litigation." Like, What?
Okay.
But you know who is speaking up? other pharmaceutical companies who recognize that this case will also have an impact on the FDA's ability and sound standing to approve medications that they manufacture. Scores of companies have reportedly signed on to an amicus brief filed with the Supreme Court that called the Texas ruling, quote, an unprecedented assault on the FDA's approval decisions. So that bit of support goes to show that this impending ruling will have far-reaching impact that extends well beyond abortion access. So buckle up, y'all. They might be coming for it all.
Totally. I mean, the abortion access, like, we can't overstate how important that is. Like, we have said it so many times on this show, you know how we feel, but this also threatens so much more than just this issue. Like, this threatens all the medications in the United States. Like, it really is monumental. So we hope, knock on everything, that they make the right decision. Staying on the topic of the Supreme Court, I want to talk about an update in the case of Rodney Reed. Rodney Reed is a death row inmate in Texas whose case we've talked about on this show previously. Yesterday, in a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court sided with Reed in his years-long efforts to get post-conviction DNA testing to try and prove his innocence. Before this, Texas had argued that Reed waited too long to bring his challenge to the federal court, but the Supreme Court disagreed. So now Reed can go back to a federal court to make his claim for DNA testing.
Texas is really just fucking up with these court rulings, but
Big
let's
time.
rewind for a second. Can you give us a refresher on the details of this case? Because it's pretty wild.
Yeah, this is truly wild. So back in 1996, a 19-year-old white woman, Stacey Stites, was raped and murdered in Bastrop County, Texas. A year later, sheriffs arrested Rodney Reed, a then 29-year-old black man. At first, Reed denied knowing her, but later revealed that they were having an affair. His sperm was found inside her, but he has maintained his innocence. He said that her fiance, a local police officer, was the last person to see her alive. As time has gone on, the fiance's proclivity for violence against women, threat against Stites, etc., have come out. This is not a good guy.
Sickening.
But the all-white jury at the time did not believe Reed. And for this, and on the basis of being suspected of other rapes, not proven in any way, he received the death penalty. Reed was set to be executed back in November of 2019, but a lot of people became very invested in his case. It got a lot of attention from celebrities like Kim Kardashian and Rihanna. The fact that he was denied DNA testing previously raised a lot of eyebrows, got a lot of people making calls and really angry and upset. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals ended up halting his execution and sent his case back to the lower courts.
Okay, look, we can all recognize the ridiculousness of denying this man DNA testing, but also an all-white jury just decided to lock him away and throw away the key. Like, it's dripping in racism, but
truly,
alas. So how did we get to the Supreme Court on this?
For years, Reed has been trying to get crime scene evidence tested for traces of DNA, including the belt that Stites was strangled with. Texas has a law that lets people obtain post-conviction DNA testing under certain circumstances, but his request was denied by a state judge in 2014. They claimed that the crime scene items were stored improperly, they could be contaminated, gave a bunch of excuses. He tried to challenge that, but Texas's highest criminal court upheld that ruling and ended up denying him a rehearing in 2017. So then, in 2019, 2 years later, Reed sued in federal court. But when he got there, they told him that he waited too long, that he should have sued within 2 years of being denied testing back in 2014, rather than within the 2 years of being denied the rehearing in 2017, which is what he did. So the issue of whether or not Reed had actually waited too long to go to the federal court is why this got up to the Supreme Court in the first place. You know, they're not talking about, is he guilty, is he innocent? Like, they are talking about this time frame, the statute of limitations. And ultimately, they sided with Reed. They said that the statute of limitations, quote, begins to run when the state litigation ends. In this case, when the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals denied Reed's motion for a rehearing. So they are Team Reed, and he can go ahead and re-request this testing.
Well, color me surprised, because that's not what I was expecting.
Seriously.
Break down the final decision vote count on how the justice ended up ruling for us.
Totally. So it was a 6-3 decision. Brett Kavanaugh, surprise, surprise, actually wrote the majority opinion. Broken clock. We're not giving him credit, but he was right in this case. He was joined by Chief Justice John Roberts, as well as Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Amy Coney Barrett, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Justices Alito and Gorsuch maintained that Reed had missed the deadline, but in completely batshit la-la land, you have Clarence Thomas, who,
oh God,
embroiled in scandals of his own right now, as if there isn't enough going on to talk about. He actually wrote a separate dissent, not only, disagreeing with the majority opinion. He said that there is no doubt that Reed did the crime. He actually ended up appearing to urge officials in Texas to execute Reed, despite the fact that the court is allowing him to go forward and request this post-conviction DNA testing. It is just totally unfathomably crazy. Like, you can't overstate how nuts that is. Clarence Thomas is just like, yeah, actually, he's guilty and you should kill him. I don't care that the rest of his court is like, maybe he should have gotten DNA tests.
When I tell you that someone like Clarence Thomas, who wallows in self-loathing about waking up with melanated black skin every day, this type of behavior is par for the course for him. And I think a lot of Black people listening to this will understand that explicitly, because he is never going to miss an opportunity to condemn another Black person. Like, come through, Clarence Thomas, continuously doing the absolute worst.
It's disgusting.
But here we are. Obviously, this ruling is huge for Rodney Reed, but can we also talk about the broader implications of this case?
Yeah, so this case really draws attention to the matter of timing, like when an inmate can make a claim to get DNA testing and use technology to bolster their pleas of innocence. According to the Innocence Project, which represents Reed and others who are seeking post-conviction DNA, 375 people in the U.S. have been exonerated from wrongful convictions because of DNA testing, including 21 people who were on death row. So in states that were fully ready to execute these people. I mean, we've been talking about DNA for a long time, but this is bringing a whole new light to the matter of like when and the timing, the statute of limitations, and how that works in these cases for these inmates who are potentially facing really dire consequences, being executed by their states. So this is a huge deal. We'll obviously continue to follow any updates in Rodney Reed's attempts to get post-conviction DNA testing. But that is the latest for now. We'll be back after some ads. What a Day is brought to you by Vuori.
Vuori is perfect for everyday wear. It's versatile, it's comfortable, and you can use it for working out, running errands, or even just lounging around. It's fashionable and functional.
Love that. Plus, Vuori is also good for the planet. They're 100% offsetting their carbon footprint by using sustainable materials for their products, and they're climate neutral certified, so you can look good while feeling good about what you're wearing. We love Vuori. Everything is so comfortable.
Right.
The joggers especially. Huge fan.
And let's be real, I do wear it to sit on my couch, so.
I mean, yes, you can wear it to a workout, but also great for lounging, which we love.
Vuori is an investment in your happiness. For our listeners, they are offering 20% off your first purchase. Get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on the planet at vuori.com/WAD. That's VUORI.com/WAD. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to vuori.com/WAD and discover the versatility of Vuori clothing. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. That's why BetterHelp is here to connect you with a licensed therapist who can accompany you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. And when I say wherever you are, I mean that, because this is the most accessible and easy to use platform to get therapy, which, let's be real, I can't live without. I don't know about you, Priyanka, but it's essential.
It's also really hard to find a therapist. It can be really expensive. BetterHelp makes all of that so much easier. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so it's convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire. You can get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge until you find the perfect fit for you.
Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/WAD today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/WAD. What a Day is brought to you by Double Sole, the sock brand that's already being called Gen Z's favorite socks with bold colors and inclusive gender-neutral sizing. And don't just take it from me, take it from our producer and resident Gen Zer, Raven, who we lovingly call Raven. They love putting together bold looks with their high double sole socks, and you'll never see them at the Crooked Office without them on. The best part is their socks are stylish and sustainable. Double Sole's fabric is made from organic and recycled recycled cotton. Their socks are made ethically in a family-owned factory, and every order comes in 100% recycled packaging.
And not only that, they are so comfortable. They have a super cushioned bottom, breathable top, no seam toe. I love my double soles. Juanita, you and I were talking about
Very
this.
much.
We both love our double
Very
soles.
much.
You get all the function and support of an athletic sock, but for half the price and in such cute colors. The purple is my favorite. Such a fan. A pair of low socks is just $9 and a pair of high socks is just $11. And that deal only gets better when you buy a pack.
Plus, Double Sole just launched their new no-show style called the Ultra Low that features a coated backing so there's no slippage. This limited edition style comes in a 3-pack in black or white and a mixed 6-pack. With so many new options, it's the perfect time to get yourself a pair. Use code WAD for 25% off your order. Go to doublesole.co/WAD for more. That's DOUBLESOUL.co/WAD.
Let's wrap up with some headlines.
Headlines.
Alabama authorities have arrested and charged 3 people with murder in connection to the shooting that left 4 people dead and dozens of others injured at a birthday party last weekend. 2 teenagers who are 17 and 16 years old, respectively, and a 20-year-old man were each charged with 4 counts of reckless murder. And the 2 teenagers are set to be tried as adults per the state's laws. Authorities didn't mention anything about a motive, citing their ongoing investigation into the shooting, but authorities did say that the boys would likely face more charges as they gather more details about those who were injured. The suspects will appear for bond hearings in the coming days. State prosecutors plan to ask the judge to hold them without bail.
2 cheerleaders were shot Tuesday morning in Elgin, Texas, after one of them mistakenly entered the wrong car after a late-night practice. The shooting happened in a grocery store parking lot that the girls say they used for carpooling. Cheerleader Heather Roth says she got into a car she believed to be her friend's, saw a man sitting in the passenger seat, and quickly got out. She then got into her friend's car, and when she saw the man approaching, rolled down the window to apologize. That's when he started shooting. Roth was grazed by a bullet, but 18-year-old Peyton Washington, her teammate, was shot in the back and leg and is currently hospitalized in critical condition. This incident comes after 20-year-old Kaylin Gillis was shot and killed Saturday when the car she was in accidentally turned into the wrong driveway in upstate New York. And after 16-year-old Ralph Yarl was shot twice after he mistakenly rang the wrong doorbell in Kansas City, Missouri last Thursday. And if you haven't seen a fucking trend here, it's all about gun access. And that is the underlying problem here.
Totally. And these kids made such an innocent mistake. Like, it's not that they did anything wrong. It's a mistake that anyone could make, you know, turning into the wrong driveway, thinking someone else's car is your own because you have the same car, it looks really similar. Like, these are such run-of-the-mill things that this happens to them just like makes you scared to just function in society. Like, if that's how it's going to be, it's so sad and it's really scary. Yesterday, the mother of Tyre Nichols sued the city of Memphis and its police department over the death of her son. 29-year-old Tyre Nichols died after 5 police officers brutally beat him during a traffic stop in January. The lawsuit said that the beating was, quote, the direct and foreseeable product of the unconstitutional policies, practices, customs, and deliberate indifference of the city of Memphis. The 139-page civil lawsuit is asking for $550 million. Here's what his mother, Rovon Wells, had to say during Wednesday's news conference.
This has nothing to do with the monetary value of this lawsuit, but everything that has to do with accountability.
Amen.
Those 5 police officers murdered my son. They beat him to death, and they need to be held accountable along with everyone else that has something to do with my son's murder.
Look, my heart breaks for Rovon Wells and her family, and I completely understand what she's saying. And the heartbreaking reality is that she fully understands that this monetary suit is not going to bring her son back. And that's the ultimate injustice to all of this.
Totally.
The Florida Board of Education voted on Wednesday to expand the state's so-called Don't Say Gay law, effectively banning discussions of gender and sexuality at all grade levels in public schools. You may recall that Governor Ron DeSantis signed the notorious legislation last year. At the time, the rule only applied to grades K through 3. Now, it goes all the way up to 12th grade. Like, what the actual fuck is the goal here? To just harm LGBTQ kids and their families as much as possible? Because that's all I can glean.
Clearly.
To absolutely no one's surprise, Governor Ron DeSantis was the one who requested the change. The board held a public hearing about the proposal ahead of yesterday's vote, and LGBTQ plus advocates were quick to criticize the measure for how it will further marginalize queer and trans youth in schools. The amended rule will go into effect after a procedural notice period that lasts about a month. I need Florida residents to speak up during this notice period because get on the record about how wrong this is and how harmful it's going to be to LGBTQ people statewide.
Totally. Amy, it makes no sense. Like, why is Ron DeSantis doing this? Is there support for this anywhere? Is anybody asking for this?
Here's the thing. Within the Republican Party, the cruelty is the point. So he's literally flexing how cruel he can be yet again.
It's disgusting. If you or someone you know listlessly scrolled a Facebook feed sometime between May 24th, 2007 and December 22nd, 2022, you may be entitled to just compensation. A $725 million settlement was tentatively approved last month against Facebook's parent company Meta as a penalty for allowing third-party organizations like Cambridge Analytica access to users' personal data without their consent. You may remember Cambridge Analytica as the consulting firm that aided Donald Trump's 2016 campaign using that very data. How could any of us forget? And while final legal approval won't come until September, Facebook users can officially stake their claim to part of that settlement now through August 25th by going to facebookuserprivacysettlement.com, whether or not their data was proven to be compromised. You may never get back the time you spent looking through the vacation photo album of someone you haven't spoken to since high school, all the muploads, as we called them in my day. But Facebook might give you $5 for their wrongdoings, and that's a little something, sure.
It's not nothing.
Yeah, it's a black coffee in LA. No milk. You can't afford milk on that.
Dust off those Converse, grab the Team Edward shirt from the attic, and hold on tight, spider monkeys. Lionsgate announced yesterday the studio is in the early stages of developing a Twilight television series based off of Stephenie Meyer's book series turned hit teen trilogy. The original Twilight films were a massive success, collectively grossing over $3.4 billion worldwide. This is just the latest popular genre film of the early aughts to get a television rehashing, as the network, formerly known as HBO Max, recently announced they would be adapting the Harry Potter books into a multi-season series with anti-trans author J.K. Rowling attached as an executive producer. Who would have thought the series about the teenage girl with a 104-year-old boyfriend who watches her sleep every night would be shaping up to be the less problematic adaptation? I am gagged.
Truly. I mean, no one. That was not what our money was on. They pulled off the impossible. Congratulations to them. I see no issue with theirs, I guess.
I'm very, very excited, and I hope that they do the entire Twilight series with that blue hue that all the movies were.
Listen, I don't think either of these will be good.
What? You don't think Twilight will be decent? Not necessarily good, but decently entertaining?
No, I feel like no remake is ever better than like the original, except maybe Parent Trap. We don't have to get into that debate again.
Not today.
On the show. Triggering.
Bring on Twilight for me. You can keep the Harry Potter because I'm not giving that anti-trans woman any coins. So let's do it.
And those are the headlines.
One more thing before we go, we've got some very exciting news for you all. Cricket is venturing across the pond with our brand new podcast, Pod Save the UK. This hilarious and insightful new podcast is your go-to source for everything UK politics. Hosted by comedian Nish Kumar and journalist Coco Khan, it's everything you love about cricket podcasts, but with a British twist and accent. Listen to the trailer now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Excited about those accents. That is all for today. If you like the show, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, get that Facebook money, and tell your friends to listen.
And if you're into reading and not just young adult novels about elderly vampire boyfriends like me, What a Day is also a nightly newsletter. Check it out and subscribe at cricket.com/subscribe. I'm Juanita Tolliver.
I'm Priyanka Arabindi. And 420 responsibly.
People. I feel like it's a holiday for a lot of folks out there.
It is a holiday. It's a holiday for this whole town here in LA.
Right. West Coast does it different from East Coast.
My yoga studio has a 420 themed yoga class. I was like,
what?
Oh, okay.
I'm into it.
What a Day is a production of Crooked Media. It's recorded and mixed by Bill Lance. Our producers are Itzy Quintanilla and Raven Yamamoto. Jossie Kaufman is our head writer, and our executive producer is Lita Martinez. Our theme music is by Colin Gilliard and Kashaka.
Do you know how much your wireless is costing you? Probably a lot more than you think. But with Consumer Cellular, you can get talk, text, and data for just $20 a month. Consumer Cellular also offers flexible plans, nationwide coverage to 99% of the U.S. population, no contract, and a 30-day risk-free guarantee. Plus, you keep your number and your phone. Make the switch today. Go to consumercellular.com to get started.